So what's good, man? It's your man, Dr. BOA. When young men get to the money, as men who have been out here and experienced life and dealt with women, we have to make sure we teach them the true essence of the game when it comes to dealing with women, being a successful and even famous young man. If you don't already have the woman on your team who's going to grow with you, the chances of you adding her, the right woman, once you become rich and famous, are slim and none. Somebody sent me a video on IG. It's a pretty popular video. I've gotten it from about 10 people so far. So I figured I'd go ahead and come in here and do it. LAVAR Ball was asked what advice he gives his sons, particularly LaMelo, since he's the one that's, just got drafted in the most recent draft. What are his chances of meeting a good girl? And he agrees that your chances of finding that woman diminish greatly once you become a sought-after man, once you become a man who women target as a come-up. Let's take a deep dive on this one. But first, let's elevate to a higher plane. Prepare for takeoff. Now, the reality of the matter is this. No matter what we do or say, we have to keep in mind that the reality of life is the reality of life, and none of us can change that. That's why we have to use our brains and not our feelings when we're out here dealing with the world, especially dealing with these women. Now, I'm nowhere near as rich as an NBA player, so especially an NBA superstar. But what I can say, as I've gravitated to higher heights financially and became more visible throughout my life, the way women interact with me is totally different. Now, granted, on the beta male end, a woman's is my way or no way. So I'm not talking about that. I mean, the way they view me, the way that women who aren't even built for that life are willing to try to compromise and act like they're built for that life just so they can get a foot in the door. This is the exact same thing that we're going to hear LAVAR Ball talk about in this interview. It's not very long, but let's take a listen to him and then we'll come back and chop it up.
You're never going to meet a nice woman, especially in basketball. You're not going to find nobody like I found your mom or my mom and dad. Because here's the thing. If you're in this profession, which you got all this fame and notoriety, how are you going to meet a good girl? You're not, because what you're going to meet her in the restaurant where you eat, or you're going to go to a club where you dance, or you're going to meet her at the arena. So I hate to tell you, you're going to meet a hoe. Just how it goes, son. And then you gotta wonder, then the first thing they're gonna say, oh, I didn't know you did that, man, with the Googling and all this. Oh, yes, they do. They know about you before you even get there. So, son, that's the bad part of the life you're gonna get, is you're never gonna meet a good woman. And by the time you do, let's say you get 30, and then you meet a woman and she's 30. You gotta wonder why she by herself at 30. So there's something that's dangerous, no matter how good they look. But have a good time, son. I feel bad for you, but hey, I love the fact you made it.
What happens if one of the kids brings home, in your words, a hoe, and you know that you got a bad situation?
I already seen them. They already bought a few through here. I'm telling you. Oh, Lord. Hey, a lot of them look good, and man, but they got different motives. And hey, I just tell them to be careful out there, man, but you never gonna know what you get, because usually, where do you meet a nice woman? If you have a job and you go to your job every day and she works at the job, you see her every day, you know what she's about. You go to school, you see her all the time. You go to church, you see her all the time. My sons are not going to church every time. They're not in no school, and their job is traveling to 40 different states. How you gonna meet somebody and be solid? It's not gonna happen. Sorry, you have to retire. Or you're just gonna be running through a lot of girls, and then, and everybody can be good for a few months and fake you out. Because they're looking at it like, oh, y'all young. If I get pregnant, 18 years is some cash. Hey, I explain to them like that and just keep their eyes open and hope the best for them.
So what you're saying is your sons are going to be billionaires, but they're going to die alone.
Now, what's there to disagree with? Nothing. He's simply telling his son that the days are gone that you're going to be able to be a successful man and find a good girl who's going to roll with you just because, who's going to love you just because, who's going to ride or die with you just because, who's going to ride with you in a Bentley the same way she'll ride with you in a Chevy Chevelle. And I don't mean one that's been restored. You have to keep in mind as a young man, and some of you older guys as well still don't know how to handle women when you got paper. You got to keep in mind that when it comes to dealing with women and you got paper, there's one thing that you got to remember. You are the prize. You were the prize before you got the paper, but you are most certainly the prize now. There is no other way to put it. You are most certainly the prize now. And you got to remember that it's going to be tough to judge a woman's character if you meet her once you're already successful. If a woman knows who you are before you walk in the room, the odds of finding a woman who just is going to want you for you, the man that you are, is slim. But let's talk about that. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that, because even, if a woman doesn't start from the gutter with you, you can't be sure about that with any woman. You could just be a regular guy with a regular salary, and you don't know if the woman is with you because you can help her afford a lifestyle she can't afford by herself. I had someone come in the comments and say, it's only realistic to be a single man living a great life, paying the cost to be the boss in your own life if you're in the South. Because in LA and New York and, out in San Diego and a couple of different other places named Miami, you say, man, it's different. You gotta, you can't do it like that. And I was like, man, you live in the wrong place. If you can't afford to live the proper lifestyle, you live in the wrong place. The bottom line is this, man. As a man, you got to afford your own lifestyle. You got to be able to afford your own lifestyle. You got to be willing to afford your own lifestyle. You have to be a man who's in a position to live your best life with or without a woman. You have to already be living that life when you meet a woman. If not, then you're going to be the same way a groupie is, trying to find a woman to help you sustain your life. And you know what happens when you need that in your life? That person becomes a lifeline. And the interaction you have with the lifeline, you treat a lifeline like the prize. That's why so many men have this issue out here that once they get to the money, they still have these same issues with women. There's no reason that a man who's rich and single should ever be out here, man, trying to find a wife unless he goes somewhere where they don't know who he is. You have to meet a woman who doesn't know who you are if you've attained a level of success. That's just the reality of it. If you don't meet a woman who doesn't know who you are, you're going to have a woman who's with you because she knows who you are. And that's cool as long as you know it. But the chances of you finding this diamond in the rough, this unicorn, this good girl who is just going to overlook the fact that you make millions. Even if you make hundreds of thousands, this girl who's just going to overlook that, it's just not going to happen, man. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, man, to be a party poop or piss on your parade or anything like that. And I'm definitely not trying to take a leak on your parade. What I'm saying is this, bro. The reality of life is this. All women want a provider. But some women are willing to bring everything that they have to the equation in order to be able to deserve that provider. Other women target providers because they don't want to bring anything to the table. They want to trap that provider, whether they're with that provider or not. And you have enough history, you have enough lessons that you can look at from other guys who've done this already. And what you're going to see is that those guys didn't have the type of guidance that these ball kids have, man, with their father, LAVAR. You can say what you want to about LAVAR Ball, man, but he keeps it a buck with his boys and he talks to them like they're men. Because you know what? They are men. When you get to the point where you can make your own way in the world, you're a man. That's what manhood is about. Taking responsibility for your own life. And I know some beta male simp man Johnny gonna come in and say, well, Dr. BOA, there's still some good girls out here, Dr. BOA. I had plenty of good girls in my life. I don't know what you're talking about, Dr. BOA. See, you ain't had nothing but scallywags. All you had is women that would take advantage of you and use you. See, if you give freely, Dr. BOA, then it ain't using you. It ain't tricking if you got it, Dr. BOA. You just hating, man, because you ain't got no woman that you can trick off on and give all your money to, and that's gonna fake like she love you, Dr. BOA. You a simp. Unsubscribe. Okay. Unsubscribe, sucker, but before you go, let me tell you this. You and guys like you are the reason that our young men are getting caught up with these scallywags. You and guys like you are the reason that some older men are not being able to get out of the grips of these scallywags because you are a guy who tells men that being entrapped with a scallywag is what you should be doing. That you should be with a lesser woman. You should be with a woman who only wants you for the paper and is not willing to do anything. And also who thinks she deserves to get the paper just because she shows up. You're the type of guy who perpetuates that energy out here, man. And it's terrible energy, it's terrible advice, and you're a part of the problem, not a part of the solution. You understand? I say, I don't care how much money you got. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to a woman, you know what I'm saying? Restitution is her contribution. You know what I'm saying? That's it. She got to break bread or she got to contribute to you getting the bread. If you keep that mindset, if you keep the pimp mindset, then you never get caught up with a scallywag who can't contribute nothing to your process. Keep the pimp mindset when it comes to dealing with women. Demand that a woman is able to contribute to your process. Demand that a woman is dedicated to your process. Demand that a woman does whatever you tell her you need her to do or want her to do to enhance the quality of life that you afford her. You got to remember that. It's not her right to have this quality of life. It's a gift. It's a blessing that she's a part of it. Because it could have been any woman that's a part of it. But fortunately for her, it's her. So I say this, man, if you're in that situation, you're a young man, you about to get into the paper. If you ain't already got the woman on your team already, then, man, don't even worry about trying to add anybody to that life, man, because it's going to be hard for you to find a woman who appreciates that. And secondly, just because you got the woman with you already doesn't mean she's going to be able to make the transition with you. It just doesn't mean that. Look up 50 Cent's progress, man. Look at his growth and how, you know, when you first heard him in the interview, he was like, man, any woman he deal with just gonna have to deal with the fact that his son's mom is in the picture. Later on, she done moved some cat up in this crib, the fly crib, mansion pretty much, that he done moved her into. She done moved some dude up in it. I want you to think about that. Of course, they had an understanding that he was putting her in this crib because she was his son's mom. And she gonna move with some dude in there. And you know what? You know, karma comes back on people. And so, you know, that house ended up, you know, burning down. Karma is a bad chick. And the only man she'll work for is a pimp. So I say this to you, man. Shout out to the homie LAVAR Ball, man, for, you know, coming through and dropping real game on his boys and give them that quality of life game. And also for being a father, man, who's pushed 3 of his boys, man, to reach the heights that they've reached so far, man. And these boys are just getting started, man. So, hey, man, y'all comment down below and let me know what you think about this topic, man. I look forward to hearing what you men have to say. I'm out.